Welcome to our channel, as we present the top 10 mysterious unsolved mysteries for 2023. So, join us on a journey beyond the ordinary, into the realm of the extraordinary. Before we start our video, please subscribe our channel and hit the bell icon. So, let's dive into the video, here we go. Number 10. The murder of Dexter Stefanik. Identified the murder of Dexter Stefanik, grieving widower. Dexter Stefanik was staying with his son, David. After losing his wife, he left his son's house on November 18, 1985, and his burning vehicle was found the next day. The sheriff's department immediately searched the area, worried that Dexter might have begun walking for help and been overcome by the bitter cold. Stefanik's body was later found, buried in a landfill with 2 shots to the head, and his killer has never been found. Number 9. Long Island serial killer.
It is Long Island's deepest, darkest mystery. Nearly a dozen murders, none of them solved.
In 2010 and 2011, police found the remains of murder victims along the beaches of Long Island, New York. These bodies are attributed to the Long Island Killer, or Craigslist Ripper, who was still unidentified. It's believed that the killer has claimed between 10 and 18 lives. Number 8. Roman jars. In a Brazilian bay, the historical consensus is that the first European visitors to Brazil were Portuguese, who arrived in 1500 AD. However, it is possible that the Romans beat them to it in 1976. Several amphorae or Roman jars were uncovered from the bottom of Guanabara Bay off the coast of Rio de Janeiro. This caught the attention of archaeologist and treasure hunter Robert Marks, who explored the area further and claimed to have found up to 200 more. 40 experts dated fragments to around the 3rd century. However, the idea that Romans arrived before the Portuguese deeply upset many Brazilians, and the government banned underwater exploration, so the depths of this mystery remain unknown. Number 7. Oakville blobs. In 1994, Oakville, Washington experienced perhaps the strangest weather phenomenon of the last few decades. It rained blobs. Strange goo fell from the sky over a period of several weeks, blanketing the town in ooze, and it made people sick.
I got sick, my wife got sick, my daughter.
What's even more bizarre is that the residents experienced a widespread illness that lasted for several weeks, too. So what could this goo have been?
Someone theorized that since the Navy had been conducting live bombing runs at sea, they might have blown up a school of jellyfish. And of course, this jellyfish would have been thrown up into the air and floated 50 miles inland, and over a period of 3 weeks, fallen 6 times.
Was it
evaporated bits of jellyfish that reformed in a cloud, or maybe waste from an airplane? The most troubling theory is that the event was a military experiment on U.S. soil. Translation: germ warfare. There are a whole mess of theories about this messy and weird weather. Number 6. The Max Headroom hijackings. On November 22nd in 1987, the broadcast of 2 Chicago stations was interrupted. Both interruptions featured an unidentified man dressed as the British eye character Max Headroom. Quarters finally. The masked man disparaged the local station he was interrupting, made several pop culture references, and got spanked by a fly swatter. The heavily distorted audio, rotating background, and masked men gave the hijackings an eerie, almost David Lynchian feel.
My brother is wearing the other one, but it's dirty. It's got footprints on it.
The hijackers couldn't be identified, nor did they come forward after the statute of limitations on their crime expired. These broadcasts seem destined to remain as mystifying as their contents.
Some pretty significant equipment, technical equipment, and some knowledge of broadcast frequencies, microwave frequencies.
Number 5. Salish sea feet. Since 2007, residents of Washington, USA, and British Columbia, Canada, have found some rather morbid jetsam washed up on their beaches. Detached human feet, most of them were found still inside shoes.
Now, you also have to consider whether or not this could be a serial killer, somebody who right now is underneath the radar.
But physical anthropologists cautioned that while the spate of discoveries was new and startling, public awareness could have prompted people to pay attention to Stray running shoes foul play has been ruled out, as most of the identified victims were involved in accidents or took their own lives. It's been speculated that the feet detached as the bodies decayed and that the air pockets and buoyant foam and sneakers floated them to the surface. Too many unanswered questions remain. Who do the feet belong to? Why are they always in running shoes? Could something truly insidious be at play in the region? But it still seems extremely odd that there have been so many, and all around the same area there are still far more questions than answers. Are these cases connected? How did the people die, and how many more feet are out there still to be found? Number 4. The disappearance of Malaysian Airlines Flight 370. Families waiting for MO 370. They still wait, and really they don't know much more than they did that first awful morning. On March 8, 2014, Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 vanished while flying from Malaysia to China after a loss of communications, and its disappearance from civilian radar. Flight 370 reappeared on military radar, having deviated from its planned flight path. The disappearance has fascinated the public for years and led to several expensive searches. It seemed impossible for an entire airplane to just go missing in an age where everything can be seen by satellites, although a few pieces have washed ashore. The bulk of the aircraft and the reason for its deviation remain unclear. Number 3. Gloria Ramirez's death. While suffering from cervical cancer, Gloria Ramirez was admitted to an emergency room in California in 1994. While treating her, the medical personnel noticed odd symptoms, including a greasy polish to her skin, a strange odor from her mouth, and oddly shaped particles in her blood. Then several of the people in the room began passing out. Overall, 23 people were affected by these strange symptoms, and Ramirez passed away with the initial diagnosis being from kidney failure. The most common suggestion for Ramirez's apparent toxicity was that she was taking dimethyl sulfoxide at home pain treatment, which combined with several of the treatments turned into an acidic substance. Another suggestion is exposure to methylamine, but no one knows for sure. Number 2. Tupac and Biggie. Tupac Shakur and the Notorious B.I. were two of the biggest names in 90s hip-hop, and both were killed by unknown assailants. Tupac was the first to die, getting shot in a drive-by on September 7, 1996. He died in a hospital 6 days later. Various people were blamed for the shooting, including gangster Orlando Anderson, and even the Notorious Big, who had a public feud with Tupac. Biggie's death followed in the early morning of March 9, 1997. Like Tupac, Biggie was also the victim of a drive-by shooting, and like Tupac, the perpetrator remains a mystery. Number 1. Madeleine McCann. Please do not hear us. Please don't scare her. Please tell us where to find her. Described by the Daily Telegraph as, quote, the most heavily reported missing person case in modern history, the disappearance of Madeleine McCann has continued to make headlines since 2007. Hailing from Leicester, England, McCann was vacationing with her family in Portugal when she was put to bed at 8:30 p.m. Her parents went to eat at a nearby restaurant, and when McCann's mother checked in at 10 o'clock, she found her daughter missing. The McCanns were scrutinized in the press and even blamed for the disappearance, but this theory was eventually dropped while the case remains open. Police suspect that a German man named Christian Bruckner kidnapped the girl. As we conclude this captivating exploration of the unexplained mysteries, remember that the mysteries of our world are endless. Keep your curiosity alive and stay tuned for more mind-bending content. Like, subscribe, and keep wondering.